Hello, my name is Brad Bodnerchuk, and welcome to the Half a Dozen Hospitality Podcast, where we discuss everything hospitality, from the food on the plate to the teams that make it happen and the community that drives this industry forward. On this podcast, we sit down and chat with some of the most exciting, inspiring, and innovative minds that make it one of the most dynamic industries that there is today. And today, I have the pleasure to be joined by Meredith, otherwise known as the Salty Cookie. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. How are you doing?
I'm doing very, very well. And for those of you that are listening on iTunes, I implore you, much like the interview with Natalie from East Van Jam, to go to YouTube and check out where we are. We're sat in Meredith's backyard. I called it a grotto. It's a beautiful sunny day, and I have the pleasure of sitting down with Meredith today and chatting all things hospitality, all things food, and I would imagine all things baking and all things cookies. So thank you again for taking the time and holding space for me.
I'm happy to.
So the first question I usually dive right into with all of my guests is how and why. So how did you get to where you are today, and why food? Why is this the avenue that is fitting for you?
I guess it goes way back to university and summer serving jobs and trying to decide what I was going to do with myself. My background was actually art history is what my degree was in.
Okay.
I moved out to Vancouver in my early 20s. Maybe I'll go to UBC. Maybe I'll think about doing a master's. Did not end up wanting to do that, but that meant I had to find something to do.
Right.
And I was working at a place that specialized in desserts, although did have a full menu.
Okay.
And in the Strait, I saw an ad for De Brule Culinary.
Okay.
I thought, oh, why don't I go check it out? They're having an open house. And I went, and by the end of it, I was signed up. They had a really good admissions guy who was quite proactive about it.
That's awesome.
And gets people really excited. So I had been cooking a little bit. I can cook. I'm a better baker than I am a cook.
Okay.
Everybody always has one
Totally.
that they're a little better
We'll dive
at.
into that for sure.
And I ended up in cooking school. After that, I worked in a bakery for a little while, went on to be a pastry chef for a little while. And yeah, I love it.
Okay.
I sort of fell into it, but I really love it.
Yeah, it sounds somewhat serendipitous, just going and checking it out. What about baking fits your personality and fits your mind? 'Cause I know for myself, I'm not a chef, but I love to cook. I don't find myself baking often because I find baking is, and feel free to jump in here, baking is more of a science, right? It's measurements, it's exact. Whereas I find, again, feel free to interject here, but I find with cooking, it's a little bit more improv and this goes with this and that, and you can kind of layer things, where I find my exposure to baking is a little bit more regimented and it has to be a certain way to achieve a certain outcome.
Yes, but with sort of qualifications to that. There are certain things that absolutely have to be the same. Your ratios for your recipes, leaveners to eggs to flour, all of that needs to stay in its own framework. That said, everything else you can play with. You can play with flavor. You can play with those ratios just a little bit to maybe the perfect texture isn't the texture you have in your mind when you're trying to create something. Maybe you're looking for something a little more dense or a little more airy than what's recommended. And you can do that. You can play with it just as much. It's, I think, knowing where to walk away and where to just mess with it. But I don't think cooking's that different from that.
Yeah, I think for me,
either. I'm not a cook. I'm the first to say I'm definitely not. I can follow any recipe. I know the techniques, but I'm not the one who's going to create that recipe.
Yeah, I see. I think we'd be a great team if we were in the back of house. I would take care of the main dishes, and then you would take care of the desserts. Yeah.
And I'm always, when I'm cooking, and maybe it's because it's not my thing. I'm always more scared I'm going to mess it up.
And that's me with baking, and I'm sure people listening can really associate with that, and it resonates with them because, like you said, it's almost like left brain, right brain kind of thing. I don't know if that's ever been like really founded and true, but for me in the kitchen, it is. I'm working through a lot of fears right now in my life as a new father, but one of them is also I fear diving into blindly baking. But like you said, as long as you have the basics, then you should be okay.
What I always say is, if you find a recipe you want to try, do it exactly the way the recipe says the first time.
Right.
And then
have fun.
Play with it. Then have fun with it.
Right.
I liked this part. I didn't like that part. You can mess with it.
Right. And is that how you got to where you are today, the salty cookie? Is it you saw a either opportunity in the market, or you just had a kind of a paradigm shift where you thought, this is me, this is now, it has to happen?
I needed to do something that was going to fit in my life.
Right.
So we had been talking earlier. I need to be available to my kids. I don't work full time. I do this part time.
Right.
And it's very hard to go out and get a job where you're like, oh, yeah, it's Christmas. I'm going to need a couple of weeks off. They don't like that.
Right.
And oh, yeah, spring break is coming
Yeah.
up. I know it's just a few months later, but I need another 2 weeks off.
Right.
People frown on that.
Yeah.
Now my kids are old enough that I could go and work and I can let them
Right.
come home from school on their own. I can let them. But when they were 6 and 7 and 8 years old, I couldn't do that. So I had to create my own busyness, basically.
Right. I've never actually heard it described that way, busyness, but it sounds just like business. Is that not the same thing?
It is, but it's the same kind of thing. And yes, of course, I'm doing it as the business and everything that entails, but you can't do nothing.
100%. I totally agree.
You get bored, your mind goes.
So how long has the salty cookie been a thing?
I think I'm on my 4th year now.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So for those of you listening, Meredith and I came in contact through social media, like I have with a ton of my guests, which is amazing. And I love social media for that. And she was kind enough to respond to my reaching out. And I have been following you and what you do. And I'm so intrigued by what you produce. I think it's super creative and some stuff I have never seen before. I think if I'm not mistaken, it was a few weeks ago, there was a cookie you created. To me, as a layman, it looked like 2 cookies with like on top of each other, kind of sandwiched, and then confetti in the middle.
The Pinata Cookies. That was for that wasn't very long ago. It was for my daughter's birthday, like a week and a half ago.
Amazing.
They're called Pinata Cookies. My daughter found the recipe somewhere. She has like a little cookbook about all these cute stuff. It's called Kauai cakes, I think.
Okay.
And she's like, it's my birthday. This is what we're going to bring to school.
Amazing.
And they were kind of fun to make. I mean, they were a little mental because that's what it is. It's basically a cookie with a hole in the middle sandwiched between 2 more cookies. And then you fill that little hole with the sprinkles.
The sprinkles, right.
And I did little clouds. So they were all with cute little faces.
Amazing.
They were very, very cute. They were as much fun to make as they were a pain in the ass to make.
Well, it turned out awesome. If you don't follow Meredith Salty Cookie on Instagram, go out, give her a follow, and check out what she does, because items like that I find just super innovative and something I haven't seen before. So well done on that.
Thank you.
Do your kids find what you do exciting? I know for myself, growing up, I was always really proud of what my mother did as a single mother. I was really proud of her work as a teacher. Do your kids take pride in what you do? They celebrate it?
I think they do. They both come and help me with the markets.
Okay, awesome.
I don't have them in the kitchen with me for work stuff, just because I figured that's probably Vancouver health-wise not going to be the best idea. Although they do cook.
Right.
My son, who is 14, did home ec this year.
Amazing.
And I was talking to the teacher, and apparently he was so excited that, he had something that he could bring that nobody else could bring,
That's so cool.
So that was kind of exciting to hear, because I don't really hear that side of it.
Yeah.
But really they enjoy doing markets.
Awesome.
So
now, can we talk a bit about being a single mom, about being an entrepreneur? Again, like I said, that resonates a lot with me, because that's kind of how I grew up. My dad was there. He was there every second weekend. But from my reality was my sister and I and my mom. Yeah. And I took a lot of pride, like I said, in regards to how she ran the household and how she raised us. Did you find that when you had that time to decide between going after a flexible or trying to get a flexible part-time job, was it just within you to say, look, I need to do this. I need to provide for my family, and this is what I know how to do, and you just did it? Or
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, also, if you are doing something that you don't love, it sort of makes leaving your kids with somebody else a little less
palatable.
A little, yeah. I think palatable is probably a good word for it. But you completely staying home, for me, Oh,
Yeah, go for it. Just do it. We're going to go on the fly. We've got a banana bread in
I'm
the
gonna go
oven.
grab the banana
Yeah, make
bread
sure you
out
take
of
off
the
your
oven.
headset
Yes.
and just go. One thing I
Okay.
think that Meredith's talking about that I think resonates again with me so much is, and what I hope that she can provide me an answer to is, when you are a single mom or a parent in a regular, real, normal relationship, do you have more of a fire to provide for your families? I know for myself, now that I've just had my daughter with my partner, Lindsay, I'm more motivated now to create something for myself and for us as a family. So I'm really intrigued by coming into Meredith's home, seeing how she's frantically going after this banana bread that she just decided to try and make. I'm assuming this is what she does with most of her cookies as well for her business. Like I said, Meredith is on Instagram and her username is the Salty Cookie. Please do give her a follow. She's been amazing since I walked through the door. I'm sitting here with a plate of what she called shortbread cookies in front of me, which I will definitely devour soon. And don't worry, Lindsay, I'll bring some home to you. But yeah, going on what I was saying, I'm really intrigued by Meredith's story as a single mom, only because going out there on your own takes a lot, and not going quote unquote the easy way and taking a job with someone else is super empowering, something I'm really interested in. How did we do?
It's not quite ready, but I'll get my son to
Oh,
take it out of the
oh,
oven.
just make sure you flip that around there. Oh, that one's just inside out.
Oh,
Yeah, there
we
you go. So now you have your son taking care of it for you.
Yes.
Amazing. Thank
He's
you.
off school already.
And what's his name, sorry?
Kai.
Kai. Beautiful name.
Thank you.
Is he off because it's like summer vacation now?
Yeah, he's done. He finished on the 15th.
Congratulations, Kai.
Yeah.
And make sure you don't burn that banana bread. I didn't want to put too long of a tale on this kite about the whole single motherhood and entrepreneurship, but what I was just pontificating about while you're inside is there more of a drive as a single mother to create something for your family and not willing to just take a job that you don't like you said? Is it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's important also to model that if the right thing isn't out there for you, you can create the right thing for yourself. There's nothing wrong with that.
Right.
And that it's a possibility, that you don't have to look at everything as a specific set of steps. You can skip steps or add steps in between and still make things work.
Right. Do you consider yourself, and feel free to boast here a bit, do you feel that you are a 5%er? What I mean by that is 95% of people are getting up in the morning, going to work, working a job they may or may not love, coming home, having dinner with their family, falling asleep, getting up and doing the same thing the next day. For me, my theory is the 5%ers are completely going against that. They're the salmon that are swimming the opposite way.
Right.
Do you consider yourself a 5%er?
I would maybe call myself a 6%er because there is a portion of my
humble.
life that's very like that. The parenthood thing, creating your routines and your stability when the school year is around.
Right.
There's going to be part of that.
Mm-hmm.
And part of that is providing that for your kids because they kind of need it. There's
Right.
a little you need to have some spontaneity, but there also has to be a certain amount of, they need to know what's coming and what is expected. But I mean, I don't think I try not to run my life like that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, and I think I don't mean as much as far as routine and stuff. I think that has a place.
Right.
I mean as far as going against the grain of, you graduate school, you get a job, you stay in the job, you retire. You know, that kind of thing.
Then I would consider myself in there.
To me, that's where people like you and people like Natalie from East Van Jam and other chefs, entrepreneurs I've sat down with, I find it so intriguing, and I'm so excited for you guys and a bit jealous that you've just.
But that's kind of what you're doing here, right?
In essence, that's what I'm attempting to do. That's what I'm working towards. But no, I do. Again, I celebrate what you're doing, not only as just as a woman creating something, but also as a single mom. And again, I don't want to keep harping on that because I mean, there's a lot of amazing women that have partners as well. But again, there's just something that tugs on my heartstrings when I meet someone that is a single mom. So kudos for that.
See, I think that's very sweet. And I mean, for me, I always look, and I guess that's part of always trying to push your own envelope a little bit more. I always see somebody who's doing it a little bit better than me and a little
Which
bit
there always will be.
Busier and more, successful in the hits the typical boxes sort of way.
Yeah. I think that's the beauty of this life, though, and we're getting way deep here on everything opposite of cookies and food, but we'll just go with it. I think that is just the reality we live in. There's always going to be someone bigger, faster, stronger, but that's great because then you go, oh, maybe I could do that. Maybe that could be me if you want that, right?
Yeah.
And I think for me, sitting across from you today, I go, oh, like, look what she's created. Like, she had an idea and she went with it. And I hope for listeners and viewers as well, they see that as an inspiration too, because that to me is why I wanted to sit down with you and why I want to have this conversation, because you are, to me, a 5%er. Why cookies? Why not pie? Why not cake?
Well, that's funny. I didn't initially want to do a cookie business. I didn't want to pigeonhole myself into one thing. They have a really low price point. It's just cookies, you know?
Yeah.
So it's hard. I depend on volume basically to
Right.
get any decent sort of traction in when I do markets or pop-ups. But at a certain point, you just have to make the leap and do something. I had a friend who was also in the restaurant business, and I had brought him some cookies.
Okay.
And he turned around to me and was like, you need to start selling these.
Right.
And I was like, oh, but I don't want to do it. I want to, there's too many things. I'm worried it's not going to work out.
Yeah.
And he was like, do one thing.
Yeah.
Do it well.
Yeah.
And you've got something here.
Yeah.
And I kind of went, fuck it.
I like
Just
it.
do it. The worst thing that's going to happen is I'll do it for a year and I'll stop.
Yeah.
I didn't throw tons of money into this business. I
Right.
didn't. I've always done it in a way that when I do more, it's because I've organically been able to either expand to more markets or people have invited me to do different stuff. And I keep everything very, very small because I need to be able to handle it. I haven't made that step into looking for employees, into getting into stores. I did do coffee shop supplying for a little while, but even then, I ended up going back to the markets because I like both sides of it.
Right.
Like I said, I went into cooking school after being front of the house in restaurants.
Right.
I love that I can go to the markets and sell and speak to the people and see the look on their faces when they eat that sample. I mean, they're just cookies. People walk by and they're like, oh, yeah, there's a sample. I'll grab it. And then they stop while they're eating the sample
like,
and they turn
that?
back around. And that's why I do that. I love that. That's the thing about desserts in general. I mean, this is why you shouldn't be scared to do it. Even when you mess it up, you still have something sweet that odds are is gonna be edible. Yeah. I mean, once in a while you mess something up, but you do that with food too.
Totally. 100%.
Once in a while, you burn something, it has to go in the garbage. It's no different with baking because it might not be perfect, but it's part of your process of getting to
You're so
perfect.
right. You're so right. That you saying that you still have something in the end reminds me of I made this steak dish once and it called for this very beautiful topping of cream and cheese and mushrooms that you would then bake and it would like set on top of the tenderloin. And I remember it completely just crumbled and just melted and didn't do what it was supposed to do. And this is as a man, I ran into my bedroom, I put my head into my pillow like the world was ending. But it's one thing I love about food is that it does evoke emotions, right? Yeah. When you're cooking it, when you're eating it, when you're selling it or giving it to others, there are a lot of emotions attached to it. And that's what I love about this industry. When I go to restaurants or when I go to friends' homes and eat food, it's such a connector. And
it's a huge connector.
It's amazing the... just what it can bring up in your mind as far as memories and those smells and those flavors.
Back to how they say smell is one of the strongest. Smell and taste are so strongly linked that when somebody who's much older than me, I'm into my late 40s already, but I've had people that are into their 70s come at Granville Island when I've been doing the market down there and be like, tell me a story. And it's something from their childhood, or I've done black and white cookies, which nobody's really doing here for some reason.
Right.
But it's like the Seinfeld episode.
Thank
so
you.
It's
Thank you
black
for
and whites.
you're the first person that has done a Seinfeld a shout out on this show, and I thank you so much. Lindsay's gonna hate it because all I do is talk about Seinfeld. But continue. Sorry.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah.
But my family was originally from New York, which is why
okay.
I started. I remember them from childhood, and I came across a recipe which is from Junior's Deli, which is a deli that's been open since like the 40s or 50s in Brooklyn.
Okay.
And I make them sometimes. They don't even always sell that well, but they're, there's a love for them. And I completely got off topic, and now
I think you're saying is like it's like black and whites. They have a story. There's emotions.
So there's always gonna be. I did. Even just a Facebook post, I think it was on my personal page, of a history of black and white.
Oh, okay.
And all of a sudden, family members that I haven't spoken to in years, who I am basically only in touch with on Facebook, people from my dad's generation, people, my cousins, all of a sudden everybody starts talking.
It's like you won the
about
lottery.
Their memories of this cookie.
That's so cool.
And food in general does that. We all have certain dishes that we grew up with. Right. That it doesn't even have to be the best dish in the world. It's just
something about it.
Comfort. There's something about it that immediately flashes you right back to where you were maybe when you first had it, or maybe a family dinner where it was your favorite time you had it. I mean, there's so many different things.
Is there a cookie that comes to mind, or not even a cookie, an item that comes to mind for you that consistently brings back or brings emotions forward for you?
I have a couple.
Okay.
Because I guess I'm sort of a food-focused person.
Yeah.
Anyways, Montreal bagels.
Okay.
Will immediately flash me back.
Okay.
To being in Montreal, and not always what you can get here, but then somebody brings them back for me, and those are wonderful. The black and white cookies. Again, I always will think of my childhood when I eat them.
Right.
I still eat them the same way. Everybody has their own way of eating them.
So pardon my ignorance with the black and white cookie.
Yeah.
Can you explain to myself and the viewers, listeners, what exactly a black and white cookie is?
Yes.
What it consists
of?
So
it's quite large. Like usually they're almost the size of your hand.
Okay.
They're sort of halfway between a cookie and a cake.
Oh, okay.
So they're soft.
I like that already.
Different places. My memory of them is from when I was a kid, where they were quite dry and,
Not
like
nice.
Overly dry cake. But they were
Right.
so exciting because they have half of it is frosted with a chocolate fondant frosting. So one that dries. I mean, it's not hard like royal icing, but it's gets a skin over it.
Yeah.
And then half with a white one, which is sort of vanilla-y and sort of lemony.
Oh,
but
okay. Wow.
yeah. And they've been made. There's arguments over where they came from first and who made them first.
Right.
And are
Who makes the
they
best one,
Italian or are they Jewish? And
Right.
but they're definitely New York. But then there's somebody in upstate New York that made them. So maybe it's from there. But everybody has an opinion, and everybody who grew up with them has their own story about them.
That's so cool.
And then, of course, there's Seinfeld. So then there's this whole group of people that are like, look to the cookie.
Look to the cookie. Then he gets the sick belly. And great episode. Great show. So what have you found from all of your time spent at markets and all of your time selling and giving away these cookies? What is the one cookie that it's like an ace up your sleeve? It's going to make someone turn around and go, what was that?
Do you know what? I don't have one.
Okay.
Different markets, I've given up trying to predict what's going to sell out. I, for a little while, have tried to make more of one, less of another, but I regularly have them flip-flop. So some weeks I go in. One thing I have discovered is people who eat and love ginger cookies are their own breed.
Okay.
It's one of the only kind of cookies. I've had people come and buy a dozen ginger cookies.
Wow.
I've never had people come and buy only a dozen of any other specific kind.
Wow.
Maybe there'll be 6 chocolate chip, but that's not even often.
Right.
But ginger cookie people will be like, no, I'm going to eat 6 of them this week. I'm going to put some aside in the freezer. I'm going to, when they find a good ginger cookie,
they stick to it.
They stick to it. It's really funny.
So the ginger cookie is strong.
The ginger cookie is strong. But then if I make extra of them, the chocolate chip will run out.
Oh,
so it's just different weeks.
Yeah.
You get different things. So it's just who happens to show up.
Right. Changing speeds a bit, talking more about the business side of things if we can. If someone's listening to this right now and they have a friend who told them the banana bread you just made and just gave me was amazing, you need to just make banana bread and sell banana bread, What are the pros and cons you've experienced as an entrepreneur of a small business in this province, in this country, that you can share with the listeners of what it's like doing this as your business?
Specific to Vancouver, I think one of the harder things is finding somewhere to do it that's not got a crazy price tag on it.
Okay.
I'm very lucky. I work out of a friend's restaurant.
Nice.
I only have to pay for the time I'm using.
Amazing.
It's I go in, they don't serve lunch.
Okay.
But it also means they do brunch. I don't have access to my kitchen. So there are cons to that too. But
Right.
I'm very lucky in that I can use it when I need it. And I have access to a completely health board certified kitchen. And I
Right.
can keep my freezer there and it's no problem. Most people end up having to rent a commissary space,
Right.
which is getting harder and harder to find. I feel like Vancouver has a really high bar on the food
Yeah.
for small business.
Yeah. Is that a good or a bad thing?
I think that's awesome.
Right.
It makes it a little harder, but I think that's kind of good
Yeah, as a consumer,
because it's just going to keep
getting better.
getting better, right?
Right.
And we have a lot of people who know what they're doing and have something delicious that they want to share with people. 'Cause
Yeah.
in the end, that's why we all do it.
Exactly.
You don't get into food solely for money because
There's
it's
no-
just
there's no
not
money
there.
there. Yeah.
You get into it because you have something you believe in and you love and you want to share with people who are around you.
Yeah. Speaking of which, I can smell your banana bread now, and it smells amazing.
I know it smells
just
really
caught a
good,
whiff
and
of
this
that.
is one I haven't made before. So
Well, kudos to you on the smell so far. So sorry, we digressed again. So outside of the challenges of finding a space to create your item or product,
trying to be unique,
okay,
putting the hours and the effort in. Don't assume it's all just going to come.
yeah,
I had an interesting conversation last night. I did a pom-pom workshop with my daughter,
amazing.
which was kind of fun.
That's cool.
It's somebody who I used to work with for a little bit, and we were talking about different markets. They were talking about one person in particular, and I don't know what the business was, no names were, so
Right.
I'm no idea who this person is,
Okay,
who basically went around to all the vendors and offered them stuff, and everybody thought it was samples, and then asked for payment for all of it.
oh no,
You
word to
can't
the wise, don't
it.
do that.
It's like I thought I'm mentioning it more as an example. Don't assume people want your stuff. Like you have to
Yeah,
you have to engage people.
Mhm.
You have to be honest. You have to be open because as soon as there's any sort of if you're just doing this to make a quick buck or
Yeah.
to look good on Instagram
Yeah.
or I mean go find
Something else to do.
Go find something else to do.
I think though, and pardon the food pun, the cream rises to the top. So those,
absolutely.
Those people that
They get
business-
quickly weeded out.
Yeah.
It's not going to be there 5
Yeah.
years down the road.
Going back to something you said earlier, which reminded me just of what you just said now, was about giving things away. I find that such a massive piece for businesses nowadays. I look at companies like Tom's, Tom's shoes. Every pair of Tom's shoes, X amount of dollars goes to children in
Yeah.
need. So I find, I think they call it, I think it's called social entrepreneurial.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think outside of that, I also think just giving something away to your consumers or potential consumers is such a innovative, new, and honest way of doing business. Here, try my cookie. It's free.
Yeah.
Then do with it what you want.
Yeah.
Then I think as a consumer, I feel much more empowered, much more knowledgeable, and I want to support people like that.
Yes. I think there's a double edge to that, though,
Okay.
because there's also the whole idea of you get a lot of people calling up for free things because it will give you publicity. It will give you,
Right.
so for my situation specifically with the cookies, like I said, with the samples,
Yeah.
I always have little cups with 3 or 4 of little pieces of my cookies in them so everybody can taste whatever. Some cookies I can't cut. They just
Right.
don't work out or end up in crumbs. But
Right.
what I can. And I definitely sell way more. I tried once doing it without so many samples because
Yeah.
I do go through a fair bit of them.
Yeah.
And I just don't get
Yeah.
the same sales
Yeah.
because people taste something and they go, oh. And because it's a small price point, it's like, I can throw $2 for a cookie because I need a snack, or I can $10 for 6 of them, or whatever it is. And it is good. I tend, when I'm giving away large amounts of stuff, it tends to be for specific reasons. Like I've done for fundraisers.
Right. For a cause.
For a cause.
Yeah.
But I've also had bigger places, bigger people. I had a conference call me up and want free cookies. And they wanted like 1,000 cookies.
Yeah.
And I'm a tiny little business. That would cost me money, not even counting my time.
Yeah.
And they weren't willing to give me anything for them. They were like, no, we're big. So you can just have your name out. We'll hand it out branded.
No.
And I'm like, I'm sorry, I can't afford to do that. Whereas, the place that called me up or emailed me and was like, we're having a fundraiser for this, and it's a party, and people buy tickets, and we supply the food. We're trying to get donations for food. Do you think you could throw like 50 cookies at us, or a couple of pans of brownies or something? And then I'm like, yeah, of course I can do that.
It's so funny that the
is
people that can afford it don't want to pay for it. That's the ironic thing. And I think back to my point, I totally agree with what you're saying, double-edged sword. The quote unquote organic consumer, where you are choosing who you give a sample to, kind of thing. Do you know what I mean? Obviously, going to the market, it's kind of a free for all.
Yeah.
But if someone's emailing you or calling you, you then have the choice.
Yeah.
But if someone's saying, "Hey, we're big," that to me is a red flag right away. And I go, okay, well, my response to that, if I was you, because I'm a bit of a shit disturber, I'd say, okay, if you're big, you've got the budget. Here's the price.
Why?
Here's the price.
Yeah. But that's not how they were doing it.
Yeah. So unfortunately.
So, which is fine. I had other friends who thought it was an awesome idea.
Right.
And they provided stuff for them. And perfect for them. Just for me, it didn't make any sense.
Yeah. Again, I mean, it's one of those things where you sit there and go, like, what could be? But at the end of the day, you got to trust your gut.
Yeah.
And just go, you know what, I'd much rather do 10 of these 50 cookie donations.
Yeah.
And have much more of like a
absolutely.
local,
and
they're
also all very local, community-based organizations I've always worked with.
Right.
Just because, by chance, by choice, by all of that.
Circumstance,
yeah.
One thing we talked about before we came on to record was talking a bit about local businesses and the challenges that we have in this city and other major cities as well, just of cost of operation.
Yeah.
We mentioned a bit about finding space, commissary kitchens. What are you seeing happening right now in the industry? We'll talk specifically to the food industry. What are you seeing happening that you like and that you don't like in this space?
The stuff I like is that I think, and I don't know if it's like this in every city, but I think there are a lot of cities that are like that. The more food we do and the more people that are making things from their culture, from their childhood, just things for the love of it,
right?
The more we're exposed to it, the more welcoming we are of more of it.
Right.
And I think Vancouver's really good for that. We're a hugely diverse city, and most people are really curious what everybody else is about.
Totally.
And that is one of the things I absolutely love. And that goes for people, but that also goes for food. We are, I think, a bit spoiled for the different things we can get here.
Right.
And there are a lot of people that are doing sort of the do one thing and do it well. So you have a unique product that maybe nobody else. Perfect example is the guys from the Lemon Square.
Yeah.
They're making something that they used to bring to parties, and everybody was like, just do it.
Right.
And they did. And it's something that I've been told you can find all over the place in Australia, but nobody does a lemon bar like that here.
And they're delicious.
And they're awesome.
Yeah.
They're awesome. They've got a great thing going.
I should actually get you to introduce me to those guys.
Oh, for sure. They're really super
great.
nice.
Yeah. So anything that you find challenging in the industry that you don't like? If we can be potentially negative for
because we have so much good stuff, it is hard to get your stuff sort of noticed. So growing is hard because of the expense. I can't really compare to like different provinces or different cities what it's like for small business, just
Right.
because I've never tried to open up a business somewhere else.
Right.
I've heard actually, like I said, I'm from Montreal originally.
Right.
I've heard Quebec, because of all
Its
the
uniqueness.
stuff they do, is actually super difficult for small businesses. And I don't think we are super difficult. We do have a lot of rules.
Right.
Getting any kind of permits is super difficult. I also haven't tried to open up my own bakery, which I
Right.
have another friend who's trying to do that now, and she's been trying to find a place for like over a year.
Oh,
She
that's
has the
crazy.
money together. She's got awesome products. She's got people supporting her, and she just can't find a place.
Oh
Every
my God.
time she finds a place, it ends up.
Are we allowed to share a name? Or should we just keep
No,
it?
I'm going to
No?
keep it because
Okay.
I don't know if
I was
she.
just
It's
gonna-
not my story, right?
Right. I was
So-
going to say maybe someone listening is like a dynamite commercial real estate person. They're like, you
I
know what?
think
I
she
got
has
space.
a couple-
Oh, okay, good.
working for
But I
her
know
right now.
I know it's challenging. Myself, I was really close to opening up my first restaurant
Mm-hmm.
a number of months ago, and yeah, just the amount of things that can happen, both good and bad.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Brick and mortar is extremely challenging.
Yes.
But just hearing your story about your friend, I'm just going like, oh my God, how can we help her? How can we help her find a space? Because
Yeah.
we do need more spaces like that.
Yeah.
Those independently owned, great product. And then, like I said, the cream is going to rise to the top, and hopefully
Yeah,
someone
it totally
like herself.
will. Last I heard, I haven't spoken to her, but like a week ago, I saw on Instagram or Facebook, she was like, no, we're working on something.
Oh, so cool. I love
think
that.
they're right. I hope it doesn't fall through.
Good.
And
Fingers crossed.
yes, fingers crossed. But
Fingers
there's a
crossed.
lot of people who want to do something a little bit different, and it keeps for fun, interesting small businesses.
Yeah.
And that, I think, is what these small businesses are what keeps our communities interesting.
100%. I totally agree. Speaking of interesting and small businesses, who is doing something right now in this space that either you see on the weekly or on the daily on social media or just in what you do? Who is doing something right now that you are super excited about and looking forward to either their product or their service?
There are so many different things I've been excited about. I love looking for the small things, and I love seeing people who I've bought from sort of expand. So I'm thinking about the Spread 'em kitchen dips,
Okay.
which started out, with Melissa doing them herself by hand at the markets.
Amazing.
I follow her Instagram. She's gotten into stores. Then she got into stores in like Toronto, and this is like a local product for us. So I
Wow.
get super excited when I
Yeah.
see,
Spread
it
'em
might not
kitchen
be.
dips.
Yes, she does. They're like cashew cheeses,
Oh,
fermented
beautiful. So
cashew
vegan?
dips, and they're vegan, but
Right.
I put them on a turkey sandwich. I mean,
Yeah.
they're delicious.
Amazing.
I like seeing. I haven't eaten it yet, but. And I'm not sure how to pronounce it properly. The Syrian ladies who started doing the dinners, and then from the dinners they opened a food truck and
Yes,
they
I've
do
heard of this. I
catering.
heard it on CBC
And
the other day.
I
Yeah.
actually tried a couple of times to buy tickets. They were always gone by
Good.
the time I do that.
Good. I like
So
that.
I need to follow the food truck and go.
Right.
But that's wonderful because that again brings the social enterprise part
Yes.
into it, but also is sharing the diversity. Like these are women who are bringing their home recipes.
Yeah.
These
So
are probably
unique.
some of them are recipes that have probably been passed down through generations,
It's
right?
their black and white cookie.
Yeah.
Yeah. Amazing.
And I think we have a lot of that. I mean, the fact that we're now known, I mean, the New York Times wrote about the diversity of different Chinese cuisines
right.
because for so long in North America, Chinese food was Chinese food. That was
Right.
one. But that's like saying all the food in Canada is the same. It's
Right.
like these are huge places with diverse
Yeah.
cultures within the country, and now we're getting all of that all over the place. That's the sort of stuff I get a little bit excited about.
That's awesome. So aside from missing out on Syrian dinners,
Yeah.
if you are going to treat yourself and take time off from being an entrepreneur, take time off from being a
Mm-hmm.
mom, you're going to treat yourself, you're going to go out in the city, where can we find you dining?
All over.
Okay.
There are so many restaurants
I know, it's crazy.
that I find it really difficult to choose.
It can be overwhelming.
And if I'm going out with my kids, then it's usually something relatively easy, somewhere that has some burgers. I mean, I'll take them. So I work out of Mamie Taylor's.
Oh, nice.
We go there fairly regularly because the kids have, I mean, they've been going, they're comfortable, they eat everything.
Right.
We like juke. We like, I mean, they like the kid stuff. I've been taking them to Rocky Mountain in kits since they were, you know, knee high, and they can make their own pizzas sometimes.
Yeah.
So there's all sorts of stuff, you know, your more basic kid friendly food.
Yeah.
I love also going, I like going to everything. I mean, I just want to eat more. If I could just constantly go out, I would love doing that.
Is there anywhere you've been in the last few months that's really stuck out for you, or are you just too busy doing what you do? Like, have you gone to any of those restaurants that got clout when it came to Canada's top 100? Have you been to any of those ones?
Okay, I have been to Kisatanto.
Okay.
Which I would love to go back to. That was just fantastic.
Amazing.
I like grapes and soda.
I
haven't been to Farmer's Apprentice yet, which they share
one of my favorite.
part of their kid. So I haven't done that, but I go to it's walking distance from here, so it's a nice, easy spot to meet with a friend, have a drink, have their bread. Their bread is so good.
They're actually their brunch. Lindsay and I, my partner and I, are big fans of their brunch. Yeah, we show up right as soon as they open up, and we get in there, and they have like a curated menu.
Yep.
And we just sign up for that, and it's just always delicious. Yeah, the bread is warm and the butter is good, and it's fantastic. Like you said, it can be overwhelming in the city. We are spoiled.
It is. There's so much, and then I find also when you put it off for too long, you never know what's going to disappear.
Right.
And that might not even be because they aren't a great restaurant. It could be like their building was sold, or like like the restaurant version of the renovation issue, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Renoviction, I guess is what they're calling it.
Yeah.
But there's too much. There's too much good food. I mean, Savio, all the typical places. Savio Volpe is amazing. I'd love to go back for that. I'm really looking forward to trying their new place.
Yeah, on Commercial. Yeah, Pepino's. Yeah.
So I really want to try that. And that opened on Friday, I think.
Yeah, not too long ago. Yeah, I love seeing spots like that are doing one thing, in air quotes, one thing really, really well.
Download Chicken.
Yeah, you know what?
I haven't been up there yet.
So
and
Doug from
Doug
Merchants,
is awesome. Yeah.
I haven't been, but I've seen on Instagram as well, and it looks dirty and delicious. And there's something about if we can.
Every time I've driven by, there's like huge 2-hour, these massive lineups.
It's almost like
I haven't been yet.
He tapped into something there as far as what's hot right now.
Yeah.
Pardon the pun with hot chicken, fried chicken.
No, but people really, the same thing happened to Juke when they first opened up. I mean, they were floored by how busy they were.
Yeah.
And they were working constantly those first 3 months. It was like they just couldn't keep enough it going because people were just constantly there.
Those poor chickens.
Those poor chickens. We like chicken, I guess.
We
like our fried chicken in Vancouver.
Yeah. Speaking of social media, because that's my exposure to Juke and Download right now has strictly been via Instagram. How much has Instagram and social media played a role in your success of your brand, the Salty Cookie?
I think it has allowed me to keep doing this part-time and still keep people interested.
Right.
I tend to not be one of those people that posts like daily or multiples every day. I try to make sure I at least, even when I'm not, January, February, I tend to really not do a whole lot because there's just not that much to do.
Yeah.
But I try at least once a week to get something, a picture of what I'm baking at home or cooking at home or something. I think it allows you to engage people even when you're not busy.
Yeah, for sure.
And keeps people's interest up because an image is always going to sort of perk their interest.
And stick in their minds.
Yeah.
And they might share it or comment on it and send it to someone else.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, having 2 teenagers, does that help? Them being so up on the social media? They're like, Mom, you have to use this
because
hashtag.
Whatever I do is not cool anyways. So, and my daughter's young enough. She's only 11, so she's just sort of entering that teen tween sort of thing. And I'm the horrible mean mom who doesn't allow social media until they're older.
Good for you.
Because I've got friends with older kids before we really knew some of the pitfalls that hit the teens with it. Because teens are a little bit more susceptible to some of this stuff than we are. And I mean, we know how this affects us.
Oh, yeah, totally.
I can only imagine.
Yeah.
I figure push it away for as long as I can.
I think that's smart. That's what we plan on doing. I mean, my daughter's only, what is it? She's
week.
13 days old.
There
So
we go.
we still have a long time to go before we have
Yeah.
to worry about screens and stuff. But yeah, our intention is doing the same.
And for some of it is easier than others. Like my son doesn't really care. He does his gaming thing. He
Right.
has a couple of, but it's, I mean, I guess gaming social media in some ways.
Yeah.
But it's not, I also make them keep it open to me.
Right. So
Is
you can
the
see
big
what's
thing.
going on.
Even with texting, it's like, no, I pay for all of this
Yeah,
and
so
I
I
have
get to see
access
it.
to it and I
Yeah.
get to see what's going on with it.
I love it.
And I figure as long as it's not done behind their backs,
Yes.
then it's okay.
Bonuses about social media, being able to spread your brand, being able
Yes.
to get people to see what you're doing. Are there any negatives do you find for yourself and the brand? Like, do you ever find your ego is, ego is a bit bruised from someone saying, I tried your cookie and it was terrible. Like, do you let that stuff get to you? Has that happened
That
yet?
has actually never happened.
Knock on wood.
I
Amazing.
haven't, yeah, seriously. I haven't dealt with a lot of trolls, which is fantastic. I did have one guy, it was really funny. It was some German guy comment in German. And I was like,
Oh.
obviously I'm North American. It says Vancouver on my thing.
Right.
And I think maybe a few days later I remembered about it and I looked it up and he was criticizing my picture and me having edited it. And I was like, I didn't end up responding to it, but it was
Right.
all I could think of was like, I'm a baker. I'm not a photographer. I'm not trying to sell the pictures.
Yeah,
I'm trying to sell
exactly.
the cookies.
Exactly.
So
So you don't stress when it comes to posting a photo of.
I try not to. I try to keep it. It's virtual. It's not
Yeah.
real life.
Yeah, I know.
It's like those pictures that they show. They show that zoomed in, perfect
Yes.
little something,
Yeah.
and then you swipe over and they show you what it is. So there's that perfect little 2 foot by 2 foot area, and the rest of the room's a disaster.
Yeah.
It's like that. It's not real life.
Yeah.
It's highlights.
Yeah, exactly.
It's pretty highlights. That's what it is. It's not
real.
real.
The only thing I've heard when it comes to food, my friend Darren Macy, I'll give her a quick shout out. She has a blog called Running on Real Food. She's a plant-based athlete.
Right.
And she takes beautiful photos. And the only thing she ever tells me is natural light. Natural
Yes.
light.
Yeah,
Natural light. So
absolutely.
I'm just in my home now and trying to find natural light when I'm taking shots of my breakfast
Yeah.
to make them look as good as they
Yeah,
possibly
absolutely. I've even been known. I made a cobbler the other day and I actually put it on that corner. I actually
Yeah.
brought it out here
Yeah.
because it's just
So a tip for all you
natural
wanna
light
be,
for sure. Well, and I'm not a photographer. All my pictures are done on my iPhone.
Exactly.
It's nothing fancy.
Yeah.
Maybe I adjust a couple things here and there. I tend not to use too many filters unless it's obvious.
Yeah.
You use them for fun.
Exactly.
Yeah, I'm selling my cookies, not my
Yeah, you're making
photographs.
cookies, not photographs. Yeah, totally. Where is the salty cookie 5 years from now? Magic wand situation.
Don't know, actually. I'm going through a bit of changes with the kids and with different things happening. And I am not going to close down by any stretch, but it's looking like I'm going to have to get a part-time job. So I'm trying to do that and keep it going.
Right.
Because sometimes, doing everything yourself isn't easy.
No.
And I just need to have some solid money coming in regularly.
Yeah.
And with just doing markets, that's really hard because it's like feast and famine.
Yeah.
Like I said, January, February, I've got nothing
No.
coming in, but then
Yeah.
Christmas, I've got a whole lot. Summers, I do really, really well because I'm at the farmer's market on Thursdays at Granville Island. Sometimes it's just easier to have
Right.
something you can count on and you know exactly what's going on. That said, I am not willing to sell the company or the brand or do anything like that either because it's a love project, passion project. I don't want to sell it.
Yeah,
I want to be
nor
able
should you.
to pick it up whenever I want to. And I feel like I've been very lucky in that I've set it up in such a way that I can do that.
Right.
So I don't know where I'm going to be in 5 years. Either it'll slowly peter out or maybe I'll just keep doing it occasionally here and there.
Right.
Or maybe I'll change my mind, throw caution to the wind and
go all
make
into
a
it.
go of it and go full time. Because like I said, I've made sure I'm here for my kids.
Right.
But as they get older, I don't need to, here doesn't necessarily mean time. Do you know what I mean?
No, for sure. Yeah, definitely.
Because attention isn't time dependent.
Yeah, for
Or
sure.
it becomes less time dependent as they get older.
Definitely.
So, yeah, so I don't know.
It's interesting hearing you talk about the potential of maybe having to get a part-time job, and part of me when I hear that, I'm just like, I don't want that for you. I want for you to be able to make a go at this and make this be your thing. I'm wondering if are you aware of, or is there anything that the community has here? People like you, people like Lemon Square, people like Natalie over at East Van Jam.
Mm-hmm.
Are there silos that you guys can operate in that you can kind of mastermind a bit and share ideas of, look, January, February is brutally slow. What can we do? What can we do?
Well, some of it is more specific to me because of how I've set it up, because I'm only doing markets, because I'm not in any bricks and mortars. I'm not packaging.
Right.
I never really wanted to package them. I get concerned, and maybe this is where my knowledge is lacking, and I'd probably need to get some advice.
Right.
I don't want to use any of the preservatives, but the shelf life sort of precludes. I mean, I'm not going to sell to a grocery store if it has to be gone within just a couple of days. I'd have to really ramp things up and start looking for a commissary, maybe start.
Right.
It would be a bigger monetary investment. It would be a much bigger time investment.
Right.
And that's where I would start having to look at not being able to do it all by myself, to have to get employees and to have to do that. So I've purposely kept it away from that because I just want to keep it something that I can do. But to grow, I would have to.
Right. Do you have any motivation or any inspiration to do like more commercial, more wholesale?
Not right now, but it's not something I'm ruling out either.
Right. So if someone like the Overweighty group came to you and said like, hey, we'll buy 10 million cookies.
Oh my goodness. I don't even know how I would go about that. I would immediately have to get advice.
You know what's funny is I'm reminded by an entrepreneur that I follow, and he decided to release to all of his followers a book that he hadn't written yet, but he wanted to get them to. He was testing the market to see if the market would respond. They responded, so he had 90 days to write this book, and then he just did it. And I find that so inspiring and so gutsy.
I know somebody else
amazing.
who sort of just did a similar thing.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So perhaps it's something like that where you're like, you put yourself out there and then you've got, it's sink or swim.
Yeah.
And knowing from the 53 minutes that I've known you, like single mom, you just, and this is what I think about all women. I'm not trying to butter you up or my mom up or my stepmom or my partner, but women have this incredible power. And I also think I have this theory that as soon as you give birth, like you're given this like ungodly power as well. I hold my mom pretty high, but I don't think you ladies, pardon me, I don't think you ladies can fail. It's not, now it's no longer in your DNA. I think that's the gift from Mother Nature.
It's just not an option.
Exactly. It's not an option. So
and I think also maybe there's, maybe not everybody, but it's being realistic on what you can put out.
Right.
And what you can do and keep your sanity. Yeah. As well. So that's part of why I haven't gotten bigger, was because I don't want anything I'm doing to suffer. Do you know what I mean? If I go too hard in one direction or too hard in another direction, something has to give. And I don't want anything to give, which is probably maybe my own fear of failure or, doing anything. Yeah. But there's something to be said about this whole self-care thing and keeping your sanity.
Yeah, definitely.
Because I need my sanity to take care of all of these things.
Yeah, there's something to be said about imbalance as well.
Yeah. Yeah, and I feel like or at least for me right now, and like I said, things are about to change.
Right.
I found a really good balance.
Right.
And so I've just sort of let it
go
for a little while.
That's cool.
But I've been able to do what I wanted. I managed to get away for the first time without my kids in like 4 years. I just got back. I went at the beginning of June. That's like awesome. I've ticked a bunch of things off doing it this way, and now there's a few more changes coming.
Right.
And I'll see how it works out. I mean, somehow it's going to work out, right? Yeah. However
Yeah.
The chips may fall, or the cookies may fall.
The cookies may fall. Speaking of cookies, I've been staring at this plate now since I
You
walked through
haven't
the
had
door.
one yet. They're good.
May I?
Yes, please.
Yeah, on air, try one.
Please,
and
please.
Can you quickly describe what
So
I'm eating?
that is just a sablé. So it's a super simple French butter cookie. This one, I had the idea. Instagram was my inspiration. I found this Instagram of this woman who lives, I believe, in LA. She's Indian, and she couldn't find turmeric as good as she remembered getting it home. Every time she bought it, she was disappointed in what she was getting. She started a business importing from India. She goes back. She's working with a farmer who's doing heritage turmeric seeds or something like, and she doesn't even send to Canada yet. I'm like waiting. I'm on her newsletter list for emails. I'm waiting until she can do it. But it gave me the idea of like, I love turmeric. It's great in cooking, but I've not seen a lot of baking. And with the black pepper, it's like sort of a classic flavor, and it works really well with the cookies.
Well, for those of you that didn't see that, I just ate two. I just ate two in about 14 seconds.
They're very small.
Yeah, they're very small, but they're delicious. And I find that interesting because I've never had something like that before. And the pepper kind of hits you
in a second or two once you're in.
Which I'm excited about, and excited now to share with Lindsay as well, because I don't get that from a lot of baked goods. The complexity issue, where when I have a lot of plated meals, you'll get those and
there's
flavors.
No reason you shouldn't in baking. So that's the thing. So I've also always, like you were saying with the cloud cookies, the pinata cookies. Yeah. I love doing the decorated. It's fun once in a while.
Right.
But what I really like playing with is the flavors. So if you look at the lineup of cookies I have, so you'll have to come in and visit and try all of them. They're all pretty classic cookies. I have a sugar cookie, but it's a brown sugar cookie. Okay. It's not just butter. It's butter and olive oil. And then we have the salt. So that's the salty cookie, which is where the name comes from, of course. You go. So that was the cookie that started it all.
Okay.
Then I've got my chocolate chip, but it's not just any chocolate chip. It's the brown butter chocolate chip, and it's a very egg-rich dough. It's different than most chocolate chip cookies, and chocolate isn't even the star of it. I was looking, that was like the end of a year-long search for what I considered the perfect flat chocolate chip cookie.
Right.
Because you have your soft, chewy ones that are a mound that have like nuts and chocolate granola chunks and everything in it. But I wanted a super simple, plain, melt-in-your-mouth chocolate chip cookie. And I actually made a recipe I found, I think, on Pinterest or something like that, for a brown butter snickerdoodle.
Ooh.
It was okay.
Yeah.
It was fine. But I was like, but I like the dough.
Yeah.
And that was the starting point, So everything has a jump-off point from somewhere. Yeah. Even the ginger cookie, although it's probably the most classic of mine, but I have the addition of the cayenne in there, and there's like a huge blend. I have 1, 2, 3, 4 different spices, fresh ginger instead of ground ginger, a whole bunch of different stuff. So most of this in my oatmeal cookie, which I call my kitchen sink cookie, has, instead of, your typical oatmeal raisin, has apricots, candied ginger, and white chocolate chips.
Oh, delicious.
It's always, the classic is always the jumping point.
Yeah.
But you need the extra stuff in there to keep things interesting. Otherwise, they're just cookies.
Yeah.
But these are the same.
Going back to what you were saying, though, at the start of the conversation was, as long as you have the base done, then create however you want.
Yeah.
Which is amazing. And that was absolutely delicious. So thank you for sharing.
Yeah, they're good. And the base is, again, it's a Dory Greenspan recipe. Her basic vanilla sablés.
Right.
But changed.
Yeah. Do you think there is any... Sorry, how should I say this? Do you think there is such a thing as an original idea?
Yes and no. I mean, food... There aren't many new flavors. I mean, taking stuff from the natural world.
Yeah.
Somebody's bound to have done it sometime before.
Right.
Not to say you're not putting something, together in a new way.
Right.
Or maybe it hasn't been done on that particular item, black pepper and turmeric. You see that? The Spread'em Kitchen Tips has a black pepper and turmeric one there. I mean, it's a classic flavor, but I've never seen it on cookies either.
Right.
I assume somewhere in the world somebody has done it.
Yeah.
You know, so it's original in that maybe I didn't take the idea from somebody else.
Right.
But I don't assume I'm the only one that's ever come up with it either.
Yeah, I think I have this theory. It's not really my theory. I guess I'm borrowing it from a book I read called Big Magic. And the premise of the book is that inspiration is kind of floating around the world. Mm-hmm. And it kind of will pick you. And if you act upon it, then it's yours. But if you don't...
it might not. But see, I agree with that. But it might pick more than one person.
100%. And that was just it. She was telling a story about someone was writing a book in one part of the world, and they somehow came to meet, and they were writing the exact same book. Yeah. I mean, that's totally different. That's a totally different podcast. And
yeah,
totally
no, that's like we're going to start with quantum physics and all that. But yes, I completely agree.
Yeah,
that
so inspiration
is floating out there.
Yeah.
It just takes seeing things in a certain way to be able to pick it out.
And
I don't assume I'm the only one that looks at things that way.
But kudos to you for then taking action.
Yeah.
Right? It's all right. We got some kids coming home from school early.
Some kids.
Go back to class. But you know what? That's been an hour, so I don't want to keep too much of your time.
Awesome.
But before I do let you go, I have these 2 non-scripted questions for you that I ask all my guests. So I'm going to put you on the spot here. It's called the Half a Dozen Hospitality Podcast.
Yeah.
So we've got angry dogs.
Hang on one second.
Yeah, no, it's all good. We can. Oh, no. This is the beauty of podcasting outdoors in a community. It's great. So the podcast is called the Half a Dozen Hospitality Podcast. Yeah. So I have for you the half a dozen have-tos. So what are Meredith's 1 to 6, 1 to half a dozen of your have-tos? Share with listeners. Something that you've done that they have to do, whether it's a cookie you've eaten or the cookie you cooked, whether it's a trip you've taken, a meal you've eaten, a movie you've watched, a record you've purchased. What are 1 to 6 of Meredith's have-tos?
And it could be anything.
Anything. Doesn't have to be food. It can be...
Bake something. That one's for you. Okay. Just pick something easy.
Okay.
Pick a cookie, pick a banana bread, pick, something that's not going to make you crazy.
I will.
Read through the recipe first.
Okay.
Always read through the recipe
That's
first.
going to be a challenge
and then
for me.
just jump in.
Okay.
And do it. So everybody should try baking something.
Okay.
Because everybody loves baking.
Yes.
You're going to impress somebody with your baking.
Yeah.
Feeding people in general makes people feel good.
Exactly.
So it means you care.
Yeah.
You're not going to feed somebody you don't give a crap about.
Exactly.
Something else. Travel.
Okay.
Get out. It doesn't matter where.
Okay.
Just don't stay in one place forever.
Right.
Because I feel like traveling anywhere and exposing yourself to something new is going to expand your point of view.
Right.
And nobody wants to stay small.
No.
Don't be scared to fail. Try something even if you're not sure you're going to be good at it.
Right.
So that's 3.
Yeah, you don't have to do 6. You can do 3 is good.
3 is good because now I'm brain farting.
Cool.
Sorry.
No, it's all good. And then the last one is the half a dozen haven't yet. So same rules, but something you haven't done yet. So a meal you haven't eaten, a restaurant you haven't been to, a piece of art you haven't seen in person, whatever it is, a trip you haven't taken.
A trip I haven't taken, I could even put 2 in there, is I've never been to India.
Okay.
And I would love to go to India, and Italy.
Beautiful.
Even when I was backpacking in my early 20s, late teens, early 20s, I never stayed in Italy except as a way because I always wanted to go back with a little more money so I could do a little bit more stuff. And I still haven't done it.
Okay.
So Italy and India are big never have. I don't know. I'm sure there's much more than that.
And I put everyone on the spot. Everyone gets super stressed out about it, but I just want to see organically what people come up with. So nothing else that you can think of that you haven't done yet that just is burning inside of you. It's okay if not. 2 is good. Italy and India, that's pretty epic.
That's a pretty good one. One thing I really need to do, because I say I'm going to do it every year and I don't, is get back on skis, which is ridiculous considering where we live.
Yeah, it is.
So I need to do that. That's a very easily attainable one.
Yes.
I just have to get off my butt and do it.
I can hold you kind of. How about this? I'll bake something, and then come winter, I will.
We'll go skiing.
Yeah, we'll go skiing. I'd love to do that.
It's easy enough.
I know it's right there.
What is something else? Be not that I'm not open, but just look for new experiences. Don't wait for them to come.
Okay.
And sort of search out more firsts.
Right. I like that.
Because there's something special about the first time you do anything.
Yeah, totally.
I need more firsts.
I like that.
I'm going to leave that one.
And this was your first podcast?
This was my first podcast. So there's a first. I need more of them.
There you go. So thank you so much again for your time. Thank you so much
for asking me.
Yeah, no, my absolute pleasure. And I want to take a moment to recognize you, not only because you're a single mom doing it. I want to recognize you for putting things like turmeric and black pepper in cookies and bringing people so much joy with such a simple thing. I know it takes a lot of work and time for you, but we, the community, appreciate what you're doing, and I want to see you and the brand grow. So thank you so much for everything that you do.
So much.
Where can people find you and support you, the brand?
This summer, well, easily, I always follow my Instagram. I always announce where I'm going to be.
Okay.
But this summer is an easy one because through July, every Thursday, I'll be at the outdoor market, the farmer's market at Granville Island.
Okay.
So that's from 10 to 3 on Thursdays. I'll do most of the August dates, but I do have a couple I'm not going to be around for. So that you can follow Instagram for. After that, it's going to be pop-ups, and we'll have to see.
Okay.
That's where things all start changing for me. So I'll have to figure out how that's all going to
Cool.
work.
So follow Meredith on Instagram at the Salty Cookie. And then if you're in Italy or India, keep an eye open for her. Or if you're on one of the local mountains, look for her and I this winter.
There we go.
And I'll be sure to post on social media whatever it is I decide to dive into as far as baking. And I'll be sure to tag you and let you know how it turns out. Hopefully I won't end up crying in my bed.
No, it's not scary. It's not scary. It's good.
So yeah, again, I want to thank you so much for your time. I want to thank you guys for listening and tuning in. Keep supporting people like Meredith. Keep tuning into the podcast. And until next time, guys, be good and do good. That's it.
Thank you so much.